All right, good morning. It's Thursday, September 14th, 2017. We have 1 week down in the fantasy football world. Might I say it was a wonderful week in fantasy, just a horrendous week in real life football. Not a lot of touchdowns being scored. My Texans get demolished against the Jacksonville Jaguars, no less. And Brian Cushing. I can't believe this man is caught with uh, shit in his system and gets suspended 10 games. It's definitely going to hurt my defense a little bit, but I feel like Benardrick McKinney and Zach Cunningham will get more reps. Those guys are a little more athletic, and the defense will thrive. Might be time to hang up the pads, Brian. I loved you. Defensive Rookie of the Year. But the game's moving too fast that you gotta take this stuff and try to get that edge. You might want to think of a different career plan, but that's neither here nor there. Love you. Just can't believe you're suspended for 10 games. Moving on, before I get choked up and emotional over here, let's get back to the fantasy world. I'm 1-0. I hope the others that are 1-0 feel as much elation and joy that I feel right now. Those that are 0-1, I'm going to tell you what I tell my Texans. It's only 1 week. Get back on that horse and do what you got to do to pull out a victory. You don't want to go too many games below 500 in this world because it does something to your psyche. It does something to your mental game. Is my team good enough? Am I playing the right guys? Why is my bench outscoring my starters? These are the things that can happen once you go below 500 too many games. And that's true with any sport. If you lose too many in a row, you become identified as a fucking loser. So don't do that to yourself. Come back, win this next game. Unless you're playing me, of course, and then you're probably destined to lose. But those that are 1-0 did a wonderful job and played their matchups well. Probably didn't do too much tinkering. They drafted their squad and stuck with it. Now, let's get down to who I believe is the fantasy dud of the week. Now, I don't like to give this award out too often, and it's not necessarily the guy with the lowest point total that will get this award. But it is this week. I give my Fantasy Dud Award to Lazy Pugs. Now, I'm not sure what happened to Lazy Pugs, but it might be something about his roster not being very well rounded. You get so many single digit performances from your guys. I mean, you start the old man Frank Gore, Kenny Britt. Kenny Britt hasn't been good for 4 or 5 years now. And Michael Thomas doesn't give you what you need. Drew Brees and Jason Witten are your best performers. I mean, this could be a sign that the team might be a little too old. Might want to start making some moves. And the fantasy dud, it's going to weigh on you. And it's not like he had a whole lot on his bench. This guy had 3 guys affected by Hurricane Irma. So, I mean, this is just natural that he didn't have enough depth to fulfill the spots of Jay Ajayi, Deshaun Jackson, and, Kenny Stills. So, the bench didn't score many points. I mean, could have played Giovanni Bernard in some of these situations and probably gotten a few more points, but it still probably would have rendered him very, very dudful. Fantasy dud of week 1, Lazy Pugs. Looking like that division in the West might be prime for the taking. I'm not sure if there's a lot of competition in the West. But let's go on to the most improved. And I'm doing this from the draft. Most improved has to be the grind is real. The grind is real now gets Ezekiel Elliott most likely for all of this year and may have some trouble next year if he chooses him as his keeper. But let's get real. from what I gathered from that, Ezekiel Elliott is going to be fine. I mean, unless he's an absolute monster, the courts are probably going to rule in his favor, considering this is a social matter. So, let's look at this guy's squad. He had some outstanding double-digit depth surrounding Ezekiel Elliott and Phillip Rivers. They all came to play for him. Got a whopping 143 points despite his awful draft grade. And the awful draft grade was truly synonymous with Ezekiel Elliott not being in the roster. And, he probably could have beat Bull City due to his injury without Zeke in the lineup. So, that's what happens when your stud only gets 14 points and then is out for the, remainder of the season, most likely. But let's get down to what's most important, and that's the fantasy stud. The fantasy stud of the week. We got Classy Strippers going up against a new, this used to be Woodhead Hunting or Cousins Hunt Woodhead. He changed his name to Kirk's Jerks, which is, again, a stupid pun against a player that, probably shouldn't even be worth the name. So, we got Classy Strippers. Classy Strippers has a player that puts up a 50 burger on him. And what does Classy Strippers do? He remains calm. He remains cool and collected. Doesn't, go crazy after Thursday shuffling players to see who is going to win the matchups. No, he sticks with his guns, plays his guys. And he even had his own player go off for 30, helping him in this transition to try to win this matchup. Classy Strippers wins Fantasy Stud of the Week. Now, these awards, they're minor. They're meaningless, I guess, in some ways. But it does affect one's play moving forward. I just think Classy Strippers being the stud, Lazy Pugs being the dud, and the most improved, The Grind is Real. Those teams, look, they know. They know if they did good or bad, and they're going to carry that on into next week. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and analyze. Let's go ahead and analyze my picks for last week. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. I don't think my predictions, I want to say I was 50-50, but let's go line by line and actually see where I was at. Starting with my matchup, Vigilantes versus Miami Dice. Did I win that game? Oh, yeah. I predicted myself to win that game. I did indeed win it. Even though I had some lackluster play from my bell cow, the rest of my team stepped up. Chris Hogan, he had a minor mismatch against Marcus Peters. That's my fault. I didn't think they were going to match him up on Peters all damn game long, but they did. J.J. Watt and the Texans defense, they struggled a bit, but guess what? I pulled that shit out, and Miami Dice, valiant effort, I'd imagine, but his defense didn't do shit, his IDP didn't do shit, and Kelvin Benjamin didn't give him the support that he needed to probably put him over the top. Moving on, we got Kirk's Jerks that was going up against Classy Strippers. I actually had Kirk's Jerks winning this one, and so my prediction, epic fail. So right now I'm 1-1. I already previewed some of this. I mean, Kareem Hunt went off, but the rest of Kirk's Jerks team, you might as well have flushed them down the toilet bowl. Not enough surrounding talent like that. I mean, Martavis Bryant, off day. Taylor Gabriel. I mean, these guys, do you really expect them to get 20, 30 points? Probably not. And obviously your quarterback play going up against Philadelphia, that probably should have been a better matchup for Kirk Cousins, and it wasn't. I'm kind of looking like probably going to need another quarterback, but Kirk's Jerks, probably not for real. City, Bull City that is, and the grind is real. I'm pretty sure I had Bull City winning this match. Prediction fail. So, with the grind is real, and I think Ezekiel is going to play a huge factor in this guy's push. As long as he remains healthy and scoring an average of 15 plus points, it's going to be a staple in his offense. David Johnson going to the wayside. causing a lot of waiver wire rift. I'm right now 1-2 in my predictions. We're gonna move to Chicago Chalupas, and a storm is brewing. That was my game of the week. My game of the week, gentlemen. Now, I had the champ win in this one, but it was close, just like I predicted it would be. Eddie Lacy giving him basically dud-worthy points. Whenever your team has negatives in its lineup, you're most likely going to lose this matchup. Storm is brewing kind of, missed an opportunity. I mean, Antonio Brown making up for all of this team's lackluster performance. Golden Tate doing his dang dizzle. And Melvin Gordon putting in work. Those are the only three players on Chicago Chalupas team that really is worth mentioning. Aaron Rodgers had an off day for him, but I mean, you expect 15 plus points from your quarterback. Anything less than that, that's a fail. So right now, I'm 2-2 in my matchups. We go with the new guy, Adam. Oh, I keep forgetting it's not the new guy. This is Manuel Hernandez's team with Down Goes Frazier against Flawless Victory. Flawless Victory, flood victim, now a week 1 victim. Down goes Frazier, gives him with a left, a right, an uppercut, and boom, Flawless Victory is now full of flaws. So we had some issues. He played Odell Beckham, thinking that Odell Beckham, with that being the late game, probably should have pulled him out and just put a rando to get a few points in his lineup. But he's going through some issues. Plus, DeMarco Murray didn't perform like he thought he would, and T.Y. Hilton has some dude from the upper deck throwing him the fucking football. I don't know what's going on in Indianapolis. I like it as a Texans fan, but for fantasy, I'm sticking away from all Colts players until that man gets back. Down goes Frazier. Had a wonderful matchup playing the Jaguars D against my dismal Houston Texans offense. Good play on you, kid. We got LaShawn McCoy doing his dizzle. Anytime that man gets over 15 points, that's a win. Jordan Howard seems like he's got a little competition at backfield. And with Jordan Howard on the injury report, this might be an interesting situation for your keeper, Jordan Howard. Let's see how that goes on moving forward. So right now, I definitely picked Flawless Victory to win that one. Did not see that coming with OBJ. So I'm currently 2-3. With the last matchup, let's see if I can break 500. Lazy Pugs versus this used to be Fighting Moose Knuckles, which was a wonderful name, and he changed it to When I Dip, You Dip. I'm still, I don't know. Whatever floats your boat, kid. That name kind of sucks. You're like in the Aaron Hill of naming your team right now. When I dip, you dip. I mean, it seems like a play on some kind of Cardi B song. I don't know, bro. I don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to get off your name for a second and just go about what your team did, which was phenomenal. Despite Adam Vinatieri, Colts player. You did a wonderful job orchestrating Jordy Nelson, Ty Montgomery, and it was really enough to beat this dismal Lazy Pugs team. I mean, when you play the fantasy dud, you don't have too many worries. I guess that was a nice way of easing you into the league. I just felt like Lazy Pugs was going. If the Hurricane Irma situation hadn't happened, this definitely would have been closer. I'm sure this will not get Lazy Pugs down. But right now, 0-1, starting in the back. Got to claw your way up to the top. We'll see how that plays out. So, I went 2-4 of my predictions. I have to do better. So let's go ahead and look at what we got for this week. I mean, let's go ahead and see what the prediction should be for this week, shall we? I'm gonna go with who I believe. Let's start off with the easy ones, shall we? Let's go with mine. I'm gonna beat A Storm Is Brewing. Unfortunately, this man will go 0-2. Let's go ahead and chalk that up. Another win for the Disabled Vigilantes. I came out of week 1 practically unscathed. I'm going to go ahead and throw Terrence West in my lineup. I'm going to remove Chris Hogan. I think the New Orleans defense is sneaky good. So I'm not sure going down there into the Superdome. I just had to pull him out my roster and go ahead and stick with the guy that I drafted before him, and that's Terrence West, who's going to get the bulk of the carries down there. For y'all that picked up this Javoris Allen dude, good luck playing him. Now we got Chicago Chalupas and Classy Strippers. This is my game of the week. Now, Classy Strippers right now is going through this I don't want them to know who I'm starting situation. I don't want the projected to make it look like I'm going to lose. But guess what, Classy Strippers? We can see your bench, bruh. We can see who you got. And you're not going to make any real moves before the week's out. But I'm going to go with the champ in this one. Chicago Chalupas, his team underperformed week 1. If you think that he's going to score less than 120 points each week, you're sorely mistaken. Just sorely mistaken. And the performance Classy Strippers had last week might not be matched. I mean, he had an incredible performance by Tyreek Hill, and he does seem like he's going to be in that offense quite a bit. I just can't see him scoring 30 plus points a week, and that's what he kind of needs from his playmakers just to float the rest of these points up. These guys, you're looking at 130, 135 average point team, and that's on a good day. I just think Classy Strippers had a wonderful performance from a lot of his guys in week 1 that just won't be replicated. Chicago Chalupas wins the game of the week. And now we got Miami Dice versus When I Dip, You Dip. So, who do I have winning this matchup? It's a toss-up. Miami Dice came off a pretty rough loss against myself. Made some moves, and now he's got Mike Evans back in his lineup. That's going to help a whole lot. We got Jameis Winston back in When I Dip, You Dip's lineup, and AJ Green and Ty Montgomery. I think that offense in Green Bay had a small hiccup against Seattle, but I mean, it still produced. So I don't see that production stopping anytime soon, as they're going to have to play, most likely, a shootout in Atlanta. That's probably a really good combination in Ty Montgomery and Jordy Nelson. Plus, you got A.J. Green against Houston. And I'll be the first to say that my corners, they look lost. Like, they didn't even know where these guys were going to be. It's like they were hoping for sacks that just did not happen, and they got burnt like, I don't know, a piece of toast that was left in the oven too long. It smelled bad in there. I don't know. I just don't know what happened to my Texans. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. But I'm going to give this matchup to When I Dip, You Dip. And we're going to call this maybe some beginner's luck. Maybe going 1-0 against an established veteran in this league without his quarterback that he drafted, Jameis Winston. And Jameis Winston is going up against Chicago. I mean, that's an instant. Like, okay, I'm at home and the Bears are coming to town? Mike, where you at? Deshaun, where you at? That's an easy start. So I give this one to When I Dip, You Dip. Miami Dice probably going to fall to 0-2. And like I said, you don't want to go too many games below 500. Shit gets real. Speaking of real, we got The Grind Is Real versus Down Goes Frazier. And if you've been a part of this league for a while, you know these two don't get along. I don't know. Down Goes Frazier now has a new rival, and it's the new guy. But, you know he's going to come to show up against The Grind Is Real, a.k.a. Fluffy, a.k.a. he's probably going to bust your ass and put you down on the mat, Down Goes Frazier, because I'm giving this matchup to The Grind Is Real. And his roster is just, I mean, with Zeke in it, you know he's going to have some points. And then he's got some playmakers. You got Julio going up against Green Bay, shootout. And then you got Phillip Rivers at home against Miami. That's going to be a really good game. Marshawn Lynch gets to play the Jets. This is the Jets? Okay. Grind is real. That's an instant. This on paper, this looks like a blowout. But LaShawn McCoy and if Jordan Howard can, push the young guy back and say, nah, man, this is my running back squad. I lead this. You get carries when I'm tired. So go back to the bench. If Jordan Howard can do that, I can see this being an interesting matchup. If Brandon Marshall can get, I don't know, targets outside of garbage time, especially with Odell Beckham on the bench, maybe. I mean, it's not even like they were trying. It's like Brandon Marshall either couldn't get open or Eli was like, nah, I don't like 15. Fuck that number. I don't know. But Brandon Marshall and AP, all these guys, they really didn't look like they were part of the game plans, and they were some big offseason acquisitions. Tom Brady has to do better in New Orleans, but like I said, New Orleans defense looks sneaky good. I'm gonna go with, the safe play, and the grind is real matchups and players. They should outperform. They might. He's most improved this week. He's probably gearing up to be stud this week, and it wouldn't shock me one bit. So let's go with two teams. I mean, this would be my toilet bowl, especially since Flawless Victory played OBJ and the Lazy Pugs lost to their new guy. If I had a toilet bowl of the week, it would be this. Flawless Victory versus Lazy Pugs. Not sure who I'm going to have win this matchup. It just seems that with the Tampa Bay players and the Miami players back, Lazy Pugs roster should be a little more flushed out. Drew Brees playing against New England. Everybody wants to show up against the champs, and Drew Brees, no signs of aging here. Lamar Miller, I'm pretty sure Lamar Miller should have a decent day against Cincinnati. Jay Ajayi's back, kind of questionable, even though he had a week off. Get the fuck out of here. That man's gonna run, and he's gonna run hard. I'm giving it to Lazy Pugs. Forget it. I know I picked him last week to beat the new guy. Was sorely disappointed. I'm not going to be disappointed this week. Lazy Pugs will get the win over Flawless Victory, who I'm not sure if his mind is totally on fantasy football, and I don't blame him for it not being. But this isn't. This pride ain't cheap, man. I mean, $200. I think you gotta dedicate a little time to try to make sure you don't get too far below 500 and make yourself viable for this playoff push. It's not like the Central Division is going to be, the East. It's not like you have no chance of winning. So just keep that in mind. You got some guys in your roster that I just really don't like T.Y. Hilton and I don't know, OBJ. This guy trying to get paid doesn't look like it. The injury might slow him down. So I'm going with Lazy Pugs on that one. Bull City versus Kirk's Jerks. I mean, it kind of rolls off the tongue with Kirk Cousins as your starter. Either way, that guy has to go into LA and try to take on the Rams. That's going to be an interesting fit. So who do I have winning Bull City versus Kirk's Jerks? Bull City and Kirk's Jerks had pretty ridiculous losses. Bull City especially losing David Johnson. His team is in flux. These two guys actually have a trade that will go through by mid-afternoon. Should go through. I mean, 7 people voted, and those votes are kind of split. I don't know why, but that's a pretty simple trade. No one should have vetoed that. That's pretty normal. Anyway, who do I have winning this matchup? I'm going to go with Kirk's Jerks simply because Ingram's not going to give you the production that David Johnson gave you. You need... And it's just unfortunate that I had to use the Red Woman's blood magic to... I didn't think it was going to work. A couple slugs here, King's blood. I didn't think this shit was going to work. I just did it because... I trusted my advisor, the Red Woman, and now a king, a usurper, a false king has fallen in David Johnson. I apologize. I mean, I didn't know it was going to work, but it did. So now you have to scramble and try to replace the fantasy production of a David Johnson, and drafted him so high and keeping him so high, it's going to affect your team. I mean, with him out of the lineup, the team looks a whole lot different. So going with Kirk's jerks on this one. I apologize for the blood magic, but it is what it is. All's fair in love and football, and so fantasy counts as that as well. Well, those are my predictions and my analysis for last week going into this week. We had a lot of action on the waiver wire. We even had some trades going in. The fantasy league is active as hell. Just note that your free agent money doesn't come back. So week one, there's some people below $70, and I mean, if you hopefully don't have any massive injuries or you got week one breakouts, I'm not feeling that. I need the whole month of September to really just gauge the league and see where I'm gonna go. A lot of you guys making these snap decisions. Oh, this backup is necessary. We need running back depth. Not for the cost, bro. That shit comes and goes. I need to know who's going to be durable throughout the year. I need to know who's going to be playing in December. I need to know all these things. I just didn't want to touch that waiver. Some people were spending some heavy dollars on some guys that were maybes. Maybes? Good luck. So hopefully your gambles, your bets that you paid for these players pay off. I mean, who am I? They may pay off. My guess is the percentage, the odds are, you're probably going to get him some joy out of that for the month of September, but I just don't see. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. So I really don't have much else to say. We talked about the waiver wire. We talked about last week. We put our fantasy stud, dud, and their most improved perspective. I even put out my predictions for the next week. For Thursday is today, and my Texans have a chance to redeem themselves against Cincinnati, who also had a shitty performance. That's pretty much all I have. I mean, look at the embarrassment of riches that I have. If you want to trade. I mean, I had 2 quarterbacks on the bench that just put up 30. I mean, come on. Give me some trade offers. I don't want to just throw some shit out there for you guys. I want you to come to me. Come to me and tell me, please, sir, can I have some more? And I will give you some porridge. I will donate this stuff on my bench just to be like, hey, get some improvement. All you gotta do is ask. So, I hope you enjoyed the analysis and the future predictions. I know I was a little off last week, but hopefully I can kind of get back on track. Hope it turns out very well for you this week, except my opponent. A storm is brewing. Hope everybody has a wonderful fantasy week and a wonderful real life week. I'm gonna holla at you. Peace.